Good afternoon. Welcome back. It is Thursday, August 10th, 2023. So we are a third of the way through the month of August, so we've got 4 months plus 21 days left in the year. So we have a few events and a few birthdays to talk about. Let's get into the events going back to 1985 on this date. Harry Gant wins the IROC race and championship at Michigan in a pretty close finish over Terry Labonte. It was a pretty exciting race that day. IROC races at Michigan were generally hit and miss. Obviously, you have the 1999 IROC finish with Dale Earnhardt and Dale Earnhardt Jr., and there's a couple others sprinkled in there over the years, and other times they just became long, drawn-out, single-file affairs where the NASCAR boys and Al Unser Sr. or Al Unser Jr. dominated. Let's fast forward 1 year, 1986, at Watkins Glen. Tim Richmond wins NASCAR's return after a 21-year absence. It wasn't too bad of a race. NASCAR for a number of years had had 2 races at Riverside, so this was a third race on the schedule because it was looking like Riverside might be coming off the schedule, and indeed it did, following the June race in '88. Riverside was torn down, and then Sears Point was placed in its spot in 1989 and has held on ever since. Race wasn't too bad. A lot of drivers having to learn the track, and there's a handful of road racers in this race as well. The following year, Rusty Wallace wins, 1987 on this date, driving for Blue Max Racing. And this was a unique win, because when Rusty took the white flag, he took it from pit row because it was a fuel mileage race. Rusty had a big enough lead. He came into the pits, got a couple gallons of gas, and re-entered the race and still had the lead and managed to hold on to win. So I can't think of any other time in NASCAR history where the winner of the race took the white flag in the pits. The only other thing that comes close to it is when Jeff Burton, when his team during the All-Star race 1 year took a pit stall just before the start-finish line, and the rule stated you had to make a pit stop in that segment before the segment ended, and everybody else pitted, they stayed out, they came in, did their pit stop, and all they had to do was cross the line at 55 miles an hour to finish that segment. So anyway, that's the only time in NASCAR history that I can think of that a driver took the white flag in the pits. And in 2014, also at Watkins Glen, A.J. Allmendinger wins his first Cup Series race, driving for JTG Daugherty. Now, going back to that 1987 race, that would also mark Dave Marcus' last career top 5 finish. So Dave would continue racing all the way through to the 2002 Daytona 500 without scoring another finish in the top 5. So birthdays for today. We got a former NASCAR East Series driver, son of Kelly Moore, Ryan Moore, born on this date in 1983. He has a couple East Series wins. World of Outlaws legends, born on this day in 1977, Donnie Schatz. Another Donnie born on this day in 1962 was known for flipping a car 52 at Dover on the backstretch, Donnie Neuenberger. And then our only birthday that we have cards for today, born on this day in 1949, was Michael Waltrip's crew chief, Johnny Benson's crew chief, and Derek Cope's crew chief. He also had a short stint with Kyle Petty and J.J. Yaley, but most of his time was spent at Bahari Racing, Mr. Doug Hewitt. And looking, I got the stats pulled up over here. He had 5 top 5 finishes as a crew chief, 46 top 10s, and 3 pole positions. So while not a total bust as a crew chief, I think it was just being stuck with Bahari and not being critical of Bahari racing. You know, Michael Waltrip never won, Johnny Benson never won, Derek Cope never won, nobody in the 30 car ever won. And I think maybe they plateaued out. They became that perennial 8th to 15th place car. And they just weren't going to get any better, and they really weren't going to get any worse. You know, they always came to the track with clean-looking cars. You know, they had a couple pole positions, won a couple All-Star Opens, won Rookie of the Year with Johnny in '96, led the most laps in the Brickyard. They had some dominant runs. throughout the years. Had a pole with Cope in 90, what was that, 98? Yeah, at Charlotte. So just one of those things that I think Doug was a very competent crew chief. He was just saddled with a team that was only going to reach a certain level. And you know, that kind of happens with drivers from time to time. You know, it takes that, like, you look at somebody like Joey Logano. Even though he was with Powerhouse Gibbs, he plateaued. He plateaued fast at Gibbs, where he was only going to win one race here and one race there. So the move at Penske, I believe, saved Joey Logano's NASCAR career, because he might have been one of these drivers that won a couple races, and then they put him back in the Busch Series, Xfinity, whatever that was called at the time. Maybe he goes and joins a JRM or whatever, has a couple good seasons, but is never really, you know, he's like an Elliott Sadler now. He's had the taste of the big time with a good team, but didn't make it. So, and it's all in timing, you know. Doug seemed like very serviceable crew chief, seemed to get the best out of his equipment, best out of his drivers. But again, when you're going up against, during this era, you look at that era, 1992, 3 to 96, 97, you had the 28 car that was fast every week for Yates. You had the 3 car. You had the 24 car just starting to get fast. Plus, you already had the established teams of Roush, and Gibbs was just starting to become a powerhouse. So there was a lot of things going against the 30 team, as far as, you know, maybe if they would have been able to start a couple years earlier, or you know, I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of that team, but you know, not here to definitely be a downer. Just reality of the situation. I wish Doug could have got some wins. He always seemed pretty likable on TV when you get an interview out of him. So, but nonetheless, happy birthday to all those folks. I just dragged on a little bit too far there, but nonetheless, just what this channel's about. I want to get out there and get some opinions, get some facts, get the ball rolling, and have some good chats with you guys down in the comments. So thanks again for watching. Come back tomorrow, and we're going to rip something. Don't know what it is, but we're going to rip something. So thanks for watching.